Hey guys, this is Andrew from the class of 2016. I'm going to be going over the anesthesia gas machine, and each one of you should have one of the pre-approved FDA anesthesia checklist recommendations, and we're just going to go over each part of that. So the first part that you need to go over is to verify all your backup equipment is available. One of the things you'll do at each clinical site is to make sure you'll have a difficult airway cart, your MH cart, and your code cart, and to know where each one of those is in your facility. When you come in the morning, you're going to check to make sure you have an ambu bag with a mask and circuit. You're also going to make sure that you have a CREC kit, in case you need an emergency cricothyrotomy, a bougie, backup airways as in LMAs, and make sure you have appropriate sizes, 3, 4, and 5. And make sure your suction works. And we check our auxiliary O2 and make sure that's working as well. So the next things we'll need to check are your pipeline and your cylinder supply. So in order to do that, we'll come to the back of the machine where you have your cylinders connected to your anesthesia gas machine. You have oxygen, nitrous, and air. It's always in the same format each time. So what you'll do is you'll crank each tank open in the morning, and you can leave it open. And we'll come around to the front of the machine and to check our board-on pressure gauges. So like I said, so we have air, nitrous, and O2. Your air and your oxygen should have a pressure of at least 1,000 and your nitrous oxide of at least 745. You can tell the difference between your mainline supply of gas versus your pipeline or your cylinder, because there's a little cylinder picture with each one of these items. Now a quick way to do this, you don't always, or at the end you have to close, but to save you some time, you can actually just crack your tank at the beginning and just go ahead and close it off. And it won't lose any pressure, but it'll let you know how much pressure is in the cylinder once you opened it. That way it can save you a step. Once you close the cylinder off, go ahead and bleed your system with the O2 flush. This O2 flush delivers 75 liters a minute of flow. And so when you bleed your system, you want to make sure your dial reaches 0. That ensures you've successfully closed off your cylinder supply. Otherwise, if there's a connection between your cylinder supply and your mainline supply, you can actually bleed all your reserve supply during the case when you actually need it. So with that done, we'll go ahead and open our mainline supply back here. And at this point, we'll check our mainline supply. Each one of these pressure gauges should read between 45 and 55 psi. So once you've verified that, you're ready for the next step. So the next portion of the anesthesia gas machine checkoff is the low pressure system. This includes the vaporizers, CO2 absorber, and the common gas outlet. So the first thing, when you come in, just make sure your bulb is working. You'll go ahead and just cap off one end of it, go ahead and suction it. Make sure it stays for 10 seconds. The next thing to do is to make sure that if you're going to go ahead and fill your vaporizers, this will be a good time to do it now, because once you perform your low pressure checks and you crack one of these valves open and you don't securely tighten it, then you've already broken the system of the low pressure system. This would also be a good time to check the color of your CO2 absorber. If it needs to be changed, this would be a good time to do it before you check your low pressure system as well. So once we verified those items, we'll go ahead and connect our bulb down to the common gas outlet. And be sure to flip your lever down, so all gas flows will come out of the common gas outlet. You'll squeeze your bulb. Make sure it stays for 10 seconds as well. Once you've verified that, you'll go ahead and crack open one of your vaporizers. As you can tell, the bulb deflates, so we'll have to do it again for 10 seconds. And at this time, you can check your interlock system to make sure that's working. So I shouldn't be able to open the vaporizer next to this one if this one's already open. We'll go ahead and close that one. Open up your other vaporizer, squeeze your bulb for 10 seconds, or squeeze it and let it hold for 10 seconds, and check the interlock system for the other side. Once we're done with that, we can disconnect your bulb section. You can put that away, and make sure you go ahead and close off your common gas outlet lever. So now we can move on to the middle section of your anesthesia gas machine check, and we'll actually turn the machine on now. So we'll go ahead and flip the machine on. As it's powering up, we'll go ahead and open up to the O2 analyzer. We'll go ahead and just let that hang out so it will reach room air, which is 21%. While that's going, you can go ahead and check your Thorpe tubes, make sure they rise all the way. They're free floating, not touching any of the cylinders. Go ahead and turn on your nitrous, and you can check to see the Link 25 system's working. And as we come down on our O2 concentration, the nitrous should come down at the same time. So usually by that time, your O2 concentration in the system is less than, or at 21%. So then we'll go ahead and recalibrate our oxygen sensor. Go to Setup Calibration, O2 Sensor Cal, and 21%. And I'll ask you to make sure that the percent of oxygen is 21%. And click twice and go ahead and start cal. And it's going to take a while for this to calibrate. So it could be fast, it could be kind of slow. So during this time you can check to make sure your scavenging system is working correctly. And there's usually a metal ball on the side. What that tells you is there's adequate amount of pressure of suction. So we'll check that. And at this time, usually I can set up my airway, my blades, my handles, my tube, and a good time to check and make sure you have your adequate monitors. So we have blood pressure cuff, EKG, end tidal, SpO2, train of 4, and so by the time that's finished, it's completed calibrating. So you can go ahead and replace this back in. You can just hand tighten it. Don't put it too tight. And next you're going to need to, the next step would be to check your circuit and check to make sure the ventilator works. So at this portion, make sure all your lines and your circuit is tight. With your inspiratory and your expiratory. You can go ahead and take off your mask. And there's two ways you can do this. You can either hold your hand to occlude the circuit, or there's a little plug here. You just plug it right there so your hand's free. So we want to make sure our scavenging system's working. So everything's occluded. The APL valve is set to off, or sorry, is set to open at minimum. You go ahead and flush your system. You'll see your circuit bag fill, and you should hear the waste gas come off on the other side. The pressure on your gauge should never go above 10 centimeters of water pressure when the AP valve is open. Yeah, I can see that now. The next would be to make sure your circuit will pressurize. That's to make sure there's no leaks in the system. So you'll turn your APL valve all the way to 70, and you can tell that as you get closer to 70, you can hear it click. Once you reach 70 and your APL valve is closed, go ahead and hit your O2 flush button. You'll see your circuit bag fill, and you're going to see if your pressure will hold to 30 centimeters of water. That ensures that there's no leak in the system. and you check to make sure it has your high pressure alarm, and you've oxygenated to 100% oxygen. Once you've done that, you can release the pressure, and we're going to check the ventilator now. So you're going to make an artificial lung, and you do that by connecting your circuit to your bag. You can let that hang, and switch from bag mode to ventilator mode. And a quick way you can get this started is to change your vent setting. So it's already default set at 600 tidal volume and a rate of 10. What you can do is you can increase it up to however much you want. So we'll say 800, and it'll make it increase your rate to 20, so it gets these bellows to fill a little bit quicker. Go ahead, and we're going to set these test the ventilator at two different types of flows. We'll do low flow at ½ a liter. And as you can tell, there's not enough flow to get the bellows to rise. So what you can do is, while you're waiting for this to rise, you can push your O2 flush button, and it'll make your bellows rise a little quicker. And let that set. So at low flows, you're checking to make sure the volume that you've set is being reached. So we can check the volume there. Make sure the volume that you've set on the monitor is about where the bellows is dropping down to, which is 800. We'll check our pressure gauge to make sure that we're not, the needle drops all the way back down to 0 centimeters of water with each breath, to make sure we're not auto-stacking breaths. And we'll make sure the inspiratory and expiratory valves are not sticking and they're free flowing. So once we do that, we'll increase our flow to 5 liters a minute and check the same thing. So I've checked my tidal volume. Tidal volume on the bellows is reached. The pressure is reaching down to 0 on my pressure gauge, and inspiratory and expiratory valves are free and moving appropriately. So usually wait till the bellows get to the top, and then switch your mode to bag mode, and we're going to make sure that we can actually feel a breath if we deliver. So we'll go ahead and connect our bag back to our circuit. Close our APL just a little bit. You flush the O2 flush button to fill our bag, and then you can actually either feel on your face or feel on your hand that you can actually deliver oxygen through the circuit. Connect our mask back. Make sure our vaporizers are off. Turn your flows down to 0, and you can set your ventilator on standby. That's it. So in between cases, you don't have to do the low pressure system check or the O2 calibration. If you, in between cases, if you end up turning your ventilator off, then you do have to recheck your low pressure and your O2 sensors. I would never do that in between a case. Just leave the ventilator on, and the only things you need to do is to check to make sure you can pressurize your circuit, the ventilator works, and that you have adequate suction, because they'll change all those items out in between cases. So just make sure. That's usually the first thing I do, is just check suction is working, and it is. And like you did earlier, just to make sure your circuit is pressurized, include your Y piece, flip your APL to 70, hold pressure at 30, make sure you have an alarm, and it looks like we're pressurizing just fine. Take the bag off, make an artificial lung again, flip to vent mode, and we'll do the same progression. That looks fine. So I'm getting the volume that I want, the bellows are dropping to the right pressure, or to the right volume. My pressure is reaching down to 0, and my valves are working properly. That back, get the face mask back on. Everything's off again. Just make sure you have your vaporizers off. Get your ventilator to standby, and you're ready for your next case.